Hey everyone, just wanted to make a quick video on our WeBoost install. I did this before our trip, so unfortunately just wanted to preface this by saying that specific details of how we routed the cable or installed the wiring I'm sort of going to gloss over just because I don't feel like ripping out the cabinet and whatnot. But I just wanted to give a quick overview because I got a request for a description on how I installed the WeBoost. So I'm going to start off with the antenna. I have it mounted to the mount for recovery tracks. The WeBoost comes with a mounting bracket, which actually you're only looking at half of it now because I took the antenna off on a tree, so I just recovered what was left to attach it to our recovery tracks mount. You can see I've got the antenna coming out of the base of the mount. That just runs down along the base of the rack. And then it goes into the van, it enters the van around the sewer pipe. I didn't actually do this part of the install myself, the routing of the cable through the van, because I had some other work done to the van and I ended up having the tech do that work. So yeah, I had somebody do the hard part for me. But basically you drill through the roof and then I'm assuming you probably want to put a grommet around so that you don't damage the cable, and then after running the cable through the roof, you're going to want to seal it with some silicone sealant. Here's our sewer vent right here, and you can see the cable for the antenna runs into the roof right here, and that comes down through the cabinet above the rear bench in the van. So next I'll show you where that enters the van. All right, now we're in the van looking at the cabinet above the rear bench. So up here we've got, this is where the antenna comes in through the roof. I'm assuming you can probably just pull this carpet liner down and then access it through the roof. And again, this is the part that I had the tech install, running the cable through the roof. So fortunately I don't have any insight on that. But basically I got the booster itself mounted to the wall, and the cable from the roof runs in, and our inside antenna, I have the cable routed through the floor of this cabinet. There's just a few screws along the front, and then I had some staples along the side. I don't know if every van's got that, but basically it's pretty easy to pull the floor up, and then I ran the cable along the back, and then I actually drilled a hole in the back or on the side of the cabinet, you can sort of see right there, and I have the line for the antenna running down the B pillar, and then I've got the inside antenna right here, so that sort of stays in place nicely. And then when we have the folding table up, then we're able to be close to that internal antenna to get the biggest benefit from the boost. We found that especially when we're in very remote places, if we don't have any signal at all and I flip the booster on, we still won't have any signal even if we're 3 feet away from the inside antenna. But then if I put my phone right up to the antenna, then suddenly we have LTE. And then for the power for the booster, I decided to hardwire it just so that we wouldn't have to flip our inverter on in order to use it. So it's sort of the same thing, drilled a hole in the bottom of the cabinet and then ran the power line through this open space. It's in between. And then I tapped into the power for the 2 USB ports that come out down here. I use these WeBoost connectors. I'll link to them. But basically if you get this is a 2-port version, but if you use a 3-port, they're really handy. Basically flip the tab up, stick your wire in, and then close it. And so I just cut the wires running to the USB and sort of inserted this in between and then reconnected the power to the USB, and then I was able to tap into the power for the hardwire kit. I also added, just because I didn't want to leave the WeBoost on all the time just for the sake of conserving electricity, I added this switch, which I just drilled a hole into the bottom of the cabinet, stuck it in, and then ran the power through this switch. So you can see the WeBoost is on, and then I can just flip it off, and it's got this nice little LED And so that way I don't have to go into the cabinet and manually plug and unplug the power from the booster itself. So that's pretty handy. And I'll link to these switches on Amazon in the description below. So that just about concludes this brief tour of how I installed the WeBoost. In case you don't have a WeBoost yet and are curious about how it performs, we've had a lot of luck with it so far on our trip. Right now we are just outside of Bend, Oregon, and you can see signal strength on this phone, which is on Verizon, is negative 109 dBm, which is quite weak as far as cell signals go. Basically, the more negative number, the weaker it is, and it's on a logarithmic scale. So negative 108 is 10 times as weak as negative 98. And you can see up in the top, not as scientific, but you can see we've got LTE, but the bars are pretty low. And the WeBoost is off, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on now. And you can see WeBoost lit up, so we know it's working. And we'll go back to the phone, and now you can see we're at negative 67 dBm. So if I can remember the number it was on before, which I think is around negative 108, it increased by 40 dBm to negative 68, which theoretically is 40 times as strong of a signal. That doesn't necessarily mean that your internet is going to be 40 times faster, but it is a pretty significant difference when you're on the fringes of cell service. I hope this video was helpful, even though I wasn't able to show the nitty-gritty details of cutting through the roof or how the wiring was run, but hopefully that gives you a decent idea of how the WeBoost was installed in our van. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down below in the comments.